Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a very special and very unique episode of Roadside Warriors. I am Hunter Cates.
I'm Pat Cullinan.
And I am Gary O'Mealy.
And you notice that Gary O'Mealy did not say that he's Gary in the back seat because we are not actually in a back seat. We are actually at Gary's kitchen table. No, Pat's car didn't get impounded. What we're actually doing is we are going to be going to Glenpool's annual festival, the Black Gold Days, which is a hop, skip, and a jump away from Gary's pad. So we thought, we'd give you guys some nice audio to listen to for a change, as opposed to the because even though our show is excellent, the content is excellent. Admittedly, recording a car is a bit challenging. So we hope you like this different setup. So
I, for one, don't know what to do with my hands.
Well, actually, I said that whenever we sat down This is slightly uncomfortable because I've sat at a table with you guys and talked with you guys at a table, but never recording a podcast. It's just a totally different. I'm used to recording the podcast in a car environment. You can't discount how different this is.
Well, so for our listeners, since we don't currently have the aesthetic of actually recording in the car, we can at least do something that we ordinarily do. Now, obviously, our starting point for all of our trips is Expo Square in Tulsa. So, Pat, why don't you give the listeners just a little idea of how you got down here, since we're actually recording in Glenpool?
Well, I took Highway 44 and unfortunately got stuck behind the drive for 45.
Yeah.
Local person parade thing.
I wasn't sure what to make of that, because I likewise got, on I-44, got stuck behind 45. And to give you all some context, it was like a wannabe presidential convoy.
For some reason, people are showing their support of the president by putting flags on their cars and just driving together.
Yeah. So, yeah, whatever works for you.
I got stuck behind that, and then I, kept driving on the highway, got on 75, and
took that all the way south.
Took that all the way to Glenpool,
and here
I am.
Well, and just so you all know, Glenpool's Black Gold Days is a big deal because this town is bopping. Glenpool is on fire.
Never seen this many people here.
On fire today. So
admittedly, I've only been to Glenpool a handful of times to specifically come to Gary's house. Otherwise, I've never been here.
Yeah, so I can specifically give some context here. So for those that don't know, I'm originally from Altmalgi, Oklahoma, which is about 40 miles south of Tulsa on Highway 75. So Glenpool's roughly halfway in between Altmalgi and Tulsa. And when I commuted to high school back and forth every day for 4 years, I would always drive through Glenpool. And a couple of days every year, I would always notice that this park off to the side of Highway 75 in Glenpool would always have these carnival rides, and it looked like a really nice time, but it's not something that I ever really took the time to check out. So that's going to be what's kind of nice about today's episode. Even though I don't really have an excuse anymore, I've lived in Glenpool for almost 3 years now, I still have not really checked this thing out, so I'm really excited to...
This is really clearing a lot of stuff up for you.
Yeah,
all the mysteries are being solved.
Yeah, we are really checking items off the bucket list today.
Really, this is all that's on my bucket list. After today, my bucket list is scratched clean off.
Might as well end it, man.
Yeah, so to that point, that's as good a segue as any. We've talked a lot about Black Gold Days. I kill myself on the podcast. That's as good a segue as any, because we mentioned Black Gold Days, and y'all are probably like, what the hell is Black Gold Days? Especially our 2 or 3 listeners in Ireland. Black Gold Days is, as we mentioned, in Glenpool, and it celebrates the city's rich oil history, because actually Glenpool was the site of the first oil deposit in what would become the oil capital of the world, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Glenpool is about 15 miles outside, so Glenpool was actually the very first discovery. Does anyone have any other context or flavor to add to that?
No, I think you pretty much got everything there. So Glenpool was the original oil capital of the world, and then as oil companies kind of started to migrate into the area, they kind of took up residence more in the Tulsa area, so Tulsa eventually became the oil capital of the world. Now, one piece of information I will throw in here, Again, I don't mean to always shit on Okmulgee, Oklahoma, but I mean, how can I avoid that? And
take a drink.
As a side note, I do appreciate that for the Woody Guthrie episode that I was not able to join you all on, you all shit on Okmulgee in my place. So I was very appreciative of that. Okay, but anyway, to my original point, I had, I think, grown up hearing that Okmulgee was at one time the oil capital of the world. But after doing a little bit of internet research, I could not find anything to support that claim, so I just assume this is a case of Okmulgee trying to make itself out to be a bigger deal than it actually is.
I think it's just good old-fashioned brainwashing. As little Gary was 5 years old or something like that.
It's part of their Okmulgee Rising plan, right? Make people think that it was the oil capital of the world.
Which has been going on for... Yeah, exactly. It's also... Yeah, it's also Sin City. It's also where
they're just gonna say it into existence.
They're gonna keep on taking every city's moniker. So it's gonna be the city of brotherly love. It's gonna be Okmulgee, the city that never sleeps.
Okmulgee, the Big Apple.
The president lives in Okmulgee. So all of that's not true. But if you'd like to know more about the history of Glenpool, even in brief, I strongly recommend a book called Oklahoma's Atticus, which is now available on Amazon.com by one Hunter Howe Cates. So pick that up and you'll find out more about Glenpool and other stuff. Not about Okmulgee, though. I had to cut that out.
By the way, can we just quickly say, if you're going to name a celebration or a festival after something oil-related, how could you miss out on calling it the Texas Tea Party?
Well, because it's not Texas. Though.
Yeah,
as an OU fan of all people, I would think that you would be ashamed of that.
Well, I mean, Texas tea isn't necessarily specific to oil that's found in Texas, right? I mean, it's just oil, right?
Speaking of...
It's region-specific oil, actually.
It's kind of like champagne. Otherwise, it's just sparkling wine.
Otherwise, it's just sparkling oil.
So what you're saying... Given that it is region-specific Texas tea, is the Beverly Hillbillies theme song was a lie because it's black gold Texas tea, but he was actually, as we all know, a poor mountaineer from West Virginia, so it wasn't Texas tea. We're unraveling. We're unraveling a lot of mysteries. What a stupid show. So Black Gold Days.
Movie was sweet.
Oh yeah, well because Ernest played Ernest played Jed Clampett, and see we were worried we weren't gonna have anything to talk about, and somehow we're talking about how Ernest Jim Varney played Jed Clampett. Yeah, good stuff. So Black Gold Days, it's basically a fair, live music, bluegrass to gospel. We missed the Lions Club pancake breakfast, which is kind of sad, and then there's rides.
To be honest though. We're in a pandemic. I don't really want to eat the food that the Lions Club is throwing out here.
I don't think I'd want to eat the Lions Club pancake breakfast at any occasion. I'm not 80 years old.
Oh, look, you throw pancakes in front of me, I'll probably eat them. I don't care where they came from. Most of the time.
We're all making sacrifices.
Yeah, I mean, just got to be safe.
We're all making sacrifices these days. So it did have a lot of rides. I was not anticipating rides. Will either of you gentlemen be riding any of these rides?
I believe on our episode where we went to the Indian Taco Championships, I made very clear I don't trust carnival rides at all, and I especially am not going to trust them in Glenpool, Oklahoma. For
this isn't Okmulgee, for God's sake. Yeah. So if this were Okmulgee, then I would feel perfectly safe. All the carnies probably live there, so they're probably taking extra care at that. But since we obviously haven't listened to that episode in a minute, did we discuss the carny lifestyle?
I don't know.
Where do they just live? Do they travel with the carnival their entire lives?
Maybe it's like the circus, and they have like a downtime, like where they stay in Hugo, Oklahoma, and just live there in the circus off season.
Yeah,
because that's a real thing, by the way.
Right.
Well, you do certainly get the impression that carnies are just kind of traveling circus folk all the time if you ever watch Nathan Johnson and the Jerk, because he just traveled around with his good carny folk until he decided it was time to hit the road and look for his love.
So our reference points for everything are the Beverly Hillbillies and the Jerk. We're very uneducated men. So, did either of you ever pull the old "I'm gonna run away and join the circus"? Because I feel like Gary probably did. I feel like Gary said that at least once.
I don't know if it was joining the circus, but I'm sure some idle threat was made at some point.
You did run away one time, though.
Surely that would be a pretty good upgrade from Okmulgee, right?
Yes.
That's a story and a half. But the condensed version of the story is when I was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old. It couldn't have been much older than that. I had one of those like motorized little cars. I think it was like a Keebler Elf car that like has a little battery that you charge and then little kids can go drive it around. I like just up and like on my own just drove it down our street. I just hauled ass down our street in Okmulgee, and my parents were like, well, "Where the fuck is Gary?"
and so you were consciously like running away. That was your
I just decided. I decided to go for a spin. I was cruising for chicks.
Okay,
you hear me?
Then if you're cruising for chicks, then you should have been a storm chaser.
Right.
There's your throwback.
So anyway, the end of the story is like, I guess I came riding down the street and I had like my elbow out the side of the car and feeling like I was real hot shit, and I got into some big trouble.
Like Tokyo drifting back into the driveway.
Gary's Tokyo drifting in a Keebler Elf car. He actually got arrested. He spent the night in jail. So I'm not a ride guy either. I never really was. Mainly because I'm a big scaredy cat. So that plays definitely.
Well,
plays a
you're
part.
scared because you don't trust the.
You're
people
scared
that are
because
together.
you don't trust a rickety aluminum foil meshed together ride that travels all over the country. I mean, it seems reasonable.
I would I'll trust something a stationary theme park before I would a carnival, just because it's not being taken down and put back together all the time.
It's surprising you don't hear about mishaps more often. Speaking of mishaps, obviously, God forbid that actually happens, but so some of the other things going on. This sounds like a real hootenanny. We've got horseshoe tournament. I already mentioned the pancake breakfast. They have a parade. This really sounds like an old style, like Kansas City or Nebraska state fair or something, like from Wizard of Oz or something like that.
Was there a state fair in Wizard of Oz?
You know what I mean, like, it's just that kind of that old timey, or maybe even like the musical Oklahoma.
That's what I was picturing. I didn't know where Wizard of Oz came
it's
from.
Kind of like in the Beverly Hillbillies. Whenever
Dorothy won her ruby slippers by setting the high score in Papa Shot.
Yeah,
just throwing those rings over them.
My entire reference point is the Beverly Hillbillies. I have an encyclopedic knowledge of the Beverly Hillbillies. Okay, so these are the things I'm excited about. They have frog jump and a turtle race. How often do you see that? The answer is never.
I've never seen it. I am very interested in knowing if the losers of these contests are later served as a meal.
By
because
losers,
they should be.
By losers, you mean the frogs and the turtles, or the people who own the frog and turtle?
You probably have to do both to make it go long enough to feed everybody there that wasn't competing. But yeah, I think frog legs and turtle soup. It makes sense. Serve these losers up, just like they need to send the losers of the Kentucky Derby to the glue factory.
Have you either of you had frog legs before?
I've had both frog legs and turtle soup.
Interesting.
I've had frog legs, but not turtle soup. I love the frog legs. Very delicious.
Interesting, because usually I consider myself, a fairly eclectic eater, particularly when it comes to, more, rednecky items, and yet I've never had either. So,
get some at White River Fish Market.
That's right. Yeah, that is correct. So, you said you'd never seen a turtle race. I've never seen a turtle race or a frog jump or anything like that. I'm betting the answer is no, but Gary, have you ever seen a turtle race or a frog jump?
I've not ever seen a turtle race or a frog jump, but I do have a good story about a turtle race that I heard about, which I could regale you on if you are so inclined.
I almost like this more because it makes it sound like it's mythic.
Yes. Okay, so this story was told to me by, back in my previous life as a research scientist, the guy who was the department chair of our program at the Oklahoma Medical Research Foundation. Apparently, he was at this state fair type environment up in Minnesota, which is where he's from, and they were doing a turtle race. and he actually had a turtle that was participating in the race. Now, he had the idea that he was going to try to stack the odds in his favor. So, being from a laboratory environment, he got his hands on some purified adrenaline. So, what they did is before the race, they injected the turtle with adrenaline, thinking the idea is that the turtle's performance is going to be super duper enhanced. So if you're not aware, adrenaline gets your blood pumping, it gets your heart rate up, it increases your muscle performance. So it's all good stuff if you're trying to win.
But it is a performance enhancing drug for a turtle.
Yes, exactly.
Barry Bonds style. Got it.
So they inject this turtle with the adrenaline. I'll go ahead and take some bets here. Do you think the turtle won the race?
I think it died.
Yeah, I think it turned out poorly.
Yeah. Pat is absolutely correct. Before the race even began, the turtle died.
Was he a young man when he did this?
I don't know, but I hope he doesn't. I hope he doesn't mind me telling this story. I'm hoping the statute of limitations is passed on this.
What was in it for him if that turtle won the race?
You are asking absolutely the best question you possibly could.
He goes to prison for you're going to jail for a long. No one screws with the turtle race. They just.
Do you just get your name in the record books? If he win, he has to have an asterisk next to his name.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't drug test the turtle.
Yeah, that's an excellent question, but I haven't even gotten to the best part of the story yet. So the turtle dies. So what do you think the guy in the story does? He just runs off and leaves the turtle there.
Okay.
So there's just this dead turtle there, and nobody knows where it came from, and the owner of it's gone.
So they probably just think it's a dick who brought a dead turtle, as a joke. Okay, well, as long as we're telling turtle stories, I one time worked with a girl she lived in Arizona for a time, and in Arizona there is a type of tortoise that is highly endangered. And this tortoise would come into their backyard and they would feed it lettuce, kind of like, people do with cats. If a cat comes over and you feed a cat. Well, anyway,
you get stuck with cats. Do you get stuck with turtles too?
That would be not this one. You'll find out why. So very endangered tortoise. There's only a handful. This is awful. The tortoise fell in their pool. And this endangered animal, because tortoises don't swim. Tortoises don't. They're desert animals. So because it was an endangered animal, they just buried it. So we all have some pretty terrible. Do you have a terrible dead turtle story?
I don't.
You are woefully underprepared.
I'm about to get mine today.
I guess you're about to. So big time preface: we are not endorsing or encouraging the destruction of tortoises and turtles. We are just conveying our experiences in the past, all of them secondhand, because Gary and I have obviously didn't do it. We just got these stories secondhand. So gentlemen, I'm looking forward to this kind of thing, this Black Gold Days. Do you all have anything else you want to discuss before we go, or do you want to just dive right in?
I think we dive right in. I have literally read nothing about this, so I'm ready to check it out. I'm also interested in the signs I saw for the citywide garage sale that were next to the event. So
we might just skip might just skip Black Gold Days.
Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, we might find might find another black dog shirt.
You never know. Big dog shirts could be rampant out here, but I'm ready to check it out and see what I find.
Yeah, I'm anticipating some grade A people watching. I'm anticipating some world-class turtle racing and frog jumping, and I've been looking forward to this for a few days. I'm going to get a corn dog.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what the cuisine is like. When I went for a run around the park a few days ago, I saw they have turkey legs, funnel cakes, all the sorts of things you would expect to see at a fair. So I don't think any deep fried food will be out of question.
Yeah,
we'll throw this out there. Turkey legs highly overrated.
I agree. Yeah,
I'm inclined to agree as well.
I just want to get that out in the open right now.
Have one in your life, and you're good.
Yeah, that said, I think there's a time and place if it's available, and why not? But
we've got some other shit to talk about. Because the few times I've had a turkey leg has been at a Renaissance fair, and I think that's the right place to have a turkey leg.
Yeah,
it's more context appropriate.
Yes, absolutely.
So
lots of any meat product is the proper for a Renaissance fair.
So I know we were getting ready to just go ahead and pitch to Black Gold Days, but let's talk about fairs a little bit. We've already talked about a state fair. That's a different an animal of a different stripe. How do you all feel about more avant-garde kind of fairs, like a Ren fair, or Pat and I have been to that's what do you call it?
The curiosities.
The curiosities thing. Or, for instance, like a Black Gold Days. How do you guys feel about those kind of esoteric fairs?
I like the more obscure ones. I don't have high hopes for Black Gold Days because I don't think that it's going to offer me anything that I typically can't get at a normal
just
fair.
smaller.
Yeah, and I wouldn't really, based on what I know, I wouldn't consider Black Gold Days to be avant-garde or anything like that. It's just going to, I think it's just going to be a really scaled-down version of the Tulsa State Fair.
I love avant-garde. I'm like, we're in Glenpool. It's called Black Gold Days, and we go and they're doing interpretive dance in leather or something. What the hell is what the shit is this?
I do think it's kind of funny, though, now that I'm thinking about it. I was talking about not wanting to eat the food that the Lions Club was serving, but for some reason I'm like, oh yeah, I'll eat whatever's coming out of this fucking
this
trolley
van.
thing in this fucking car.
Well,
give it to me. Let's go.
We've already discussed your chili career. By the way, as a side note, I love it that you said in your previous career as a researcher. I wanted to chime in and say, instead of his current career as a podcaster. But Pat, we've already discussed your chili making career. How do you feel about the chili festival culture? Somewhat separate from the chili cook-off itself.
Culture's interesting. Like people get into it. It's fun. There isn't a whole lot to it. Like it's not some like huge, very specific culture. It's just kind of people that are super into chili, hanging out, cooking chili and having a good time.
What could be better? What could be more American? That's what I do like about these fairs. I think that's one of my key takeaways here, and we'll probably talk about this later. But whether it's the Oddities Fair or Pat and I also went to a gun show or a Ren fair, is there are people who are like, this is what they do. Like, this is their weekend hobby, is they travel from city to city and just do this stuff, and I kind of dig it. It's that.
Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah.
It's not for me, I don't think, but
What if someone mixed a chili cook-off with a Renaissance fair?
Beautiful. I'm there.
To me, the real attraction of going to kind of a more esoteric, specialized festival or something like that, it's not so much that the festival itself has amenities or attractions that kind of attract you. It's more about people watching and seeing the types of people that actually do go just for that.
Very true.
So if you're going to a Renaissance fair, you want to check out all the weirdos and Fruit Loops that are going around in suits of armor and things like that. It's
I kind of resent the implication there, Gary, but actually one time went to a Ren fair and they had a mermaid exhibit because, as everyone knows, mermaids existed in ancient England, or not ancient England, but medieval England. And it was essentially just a person in a Halloween costume sitting in a kiddie pool, and that was their covered in like black tarp. So hopefully we'll see some mermaids at this event. might need the addition of some narcotics.
I'm shooting for one of those small horses or the big pig, like the ones you
I'm not sure this is that big.
I don't think it is, but I can still remain hopeful.
Yeah, because that's another major attractant for the fair is the sideshow stuff, and I don't think we're going to get any sideshows, which is disappointing. But we will get turtle races, which none of us have firsthand ever experienced, and that is worth the price of admission.
I sure hope we get to see one because we've been talking it up a whole bunch.
Yeah, we've been talking it up a whole bunch. I hope we get to see it, and I hope it lives up.
Black Gold Days is going to get some real bad reviews from us if we don't.
Yeah, we're going to sink this thing.
But yeah, if we don't get to see one, we might just have to make up that we saw one. Wow, you guys aren't going to believe how awesome that turtle race was.
It got so much adrenaline.
It was a photo finish.
All right, so we've talked enough. We are just chomping at the bit to get here. We're like three turtles high on adrenaline. So we're going to go to Black Gold Days. We might sneak in a few sound bites as we're there, but otherwise we will talk to you soon and give you our feedback. Stay tuned. So we may not have enough room in the car to take all of you roadies with us, but that doesn't mean you can't join us on our journey. To follow along on all of our road trip adventures, follow us on Facebook at Roadside Warriors Podcast or on Instagram at Roadside Warriors Pod. Welcome back, roadies. So we just concluded our adventure to Black Gold Days. And before you ask, we're going to start with the bad news. There were no frog jumping or turtle racing competitions. So thankfully we didn't find that out until the end.
The reason we were given for this is there were no competitors. No frogs or turtles to
Maybe,
compete.
and I don't follow the Glenpool Chamber of Commerce on Facebook or anything like that, but I feel like had they put the word out, I would have been inclined to go down to the river and find some.
I would have been down at the creek trying to find one of them bad boys to throw in that competition.
Yeah, and I would definitely be looking for a competitor, and I wouldn't just be taking any turtle. I'll tell you that right now is I would be looking for a top-notch turtle racer.
And it's especially a shame since we hyped it up so much.
Yeah, pretty much the entire episode was just talking about this damn thing.
They fucking hyped it up by putting it on the schedule of events.
Yeah,
and then not having it.
When you have turtle races and frog jumping on anything,
you better fucking deliver.
I am going to notice that. Everyone is going to key in on that.
And you better follow through.
So it doesn't really matter anything we say positive or negative about this thing because there's that giant damper. Thankfully, we didn't find this out until the very end, or else we probably would have just turned around and we wouldn't have had an episode, really. But besides that, the absence of frogs and turtles, how did you all feel about Black Gold Days?
Pretty standard. I know it was a carnival.
Gary?
Well, for something like this, I think it's all about managing your expectations. Now, if we had seen something like that in Tulsa proper, I think we probably would have been a bit underwhelmed. But for what it is, for the city of Glenpool, which is not really that big of a community, I thought it was pretty all right. I thought it was just fine.
Now, you have known about this basically your entire life. How does it feel to have finally been to this, knowing as long as it has you?
And will you be going back?
Right.
Well, I'm not going to blow smoke up anyone's rear end and say it was some kind of watershed moment for me, but it is good to finally know what this is all about. Now, when I drive by on Highway 75 and I see a Ferris wheel up there and I'm like, what the hell is that for? Now I know what the hell it's for. And as for whether I'm going to come back, maybe, maybe not. We'll see. It's not anything that I'm going to be like specifically looking forward to next year, but
depends on how bad you want a funnel cake or a corn dog.
Yeah. Or if we get a turtle. If we get ourselves a turtle competitor.
Yo, we could be the only ones. We'd get all the prizes.
Which we kind of already did, but we'll get to that in a second. So as far as what we actually did, all three of us had a corn dog. What's our corn dog rating?
I'd give it a solid 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I was going to go like 6.5, 7.
You guys went to a better vendor because my corn dog was just the traditional smooth corn dog, whereas theirs had they were like stalactites.
And mine also had jalapenos in the batter.
So did mine.
So by being patient, I was impatient. I immediately got a corn dog.
You ordered yours before the thing actually even started.
Right. Turns out that this thing didn't start until noon, and I ordered mine at 11:57. Yeah.
Yeah. You panicked, and there's nothing worse than a panic corn dog.
It was a
panic. Ordered the first corn dog that crossed your path instead of waiting for the right corn dog.
Yeah. There's a lesson to be learned there that I probably won't learn. Besides that, I rode a slide. I know we said we were going to do no rides, but there was a slide that was clearly intended for children. And
he was very brave, though.
And I was very brave. It was really high up.
Yeah, and we have it all documented, so be looking for that on our social media, at Roadside Warriors Pod on Instagram.
Yeah, just so you all believe me, it was super intense. I was very brave.
I think there were 3 whole humps in it, too.
Yeah, I could have hurt myself 3 times, but thankfully I'm all right. I'll probably feel it in the morning, though.
The little kids who were watching you were very impressed.
And speaking of impressed, just to add to my badass scale, if that wasn't badass enough, I got myself a sick tat. A sick Tyrannosaurus tat, which got it on my right arm, already posted on social media, so check that out. And what else did we do? Basically just looked at a lot of vendors, and not a whole. I got into a conversation with a plasma salesman who was trying to buy my plasma. And
I think it's more of a plasma purchaser at that point.
Yeah,
right?
he's
supply chain.
He takes my plasma and sells it to somebody else. I know where these plasma centers are because it sounds like a pretty good deal. It's like $60 a pop, And he was going on and on about how you can do it 2 weeks, and so he winds up getting $800 it wouldn't be $800 a month, but he winds up making quite a bit of money every year from just selling plasma 2 times a week. And I was like, well, okay, fine, I'm listening. But then the devil's in the details. The only places to donate said plasma are in pretty sketchy areas of town. So that is not going to happen.
Places where you're not just going to be getting your plasma, you're also going to wake up in a bathtub filled with ice and you're going to have a scar on your back.
Places where you're going to also donate a kidney every single time you go. So that's not going to happen. Otherwise, vendors were kind of underwhelming. Just a knife salesman, your typical assortment of
I tried to get Hunter to buy a welder sticker to put on his car, but he wouldn't do it.
Yeah, it was a "Kiss Me, I'm a Welder." "Kiss Me, I'm a Welder," and "Kiss Me, I'm a Rig Man." Well, maybe if they had "Kiss Me, I'm a Turtle" competitor. I'm a turtle racer. Kiss Me, I'm a turtle racer. And then we wound up spending, I would say, way too much time, but, nothing better to do. We spent way too much time competing in a cornhole tournament.
You say the word competing.
Participating.
Participating is much more accurate.
We spent way too much time being present at a cornhole tournament where we kind of sort of played.
Well, so let me set the table here. So Hunter and Pat were a team in this tournament, and I was documenting the whole thing. So there's good news and bad news. The good news is that Hunter and Pat went and took home 3rd place in the tournament, but the bad news is that there were only 3 teams, and they did not put together.
Correction.
4th place
out of 4 teams.
Okay, so pardon me. So they did not quite make the medal stand. They came in 4th.
So wait, which is worse, coming 4th out of 4 teams or coming out of 3 and 3 teams?
I think 4th out of 4 is worse because we had to lose to the 3rd place team.
Yeah. So we lost to the losers, and here's the thing. Is we didn't just lose to the 3rd place team. We got creamed by the 3rd place team. I don't know what was happening. I feel like we were playing up to the first team was really, really good. And I feel like we were nowhere. How do I want to put this? I would say that anytime they had 4 onboards, you and I had like 2, give or take, until they just started to break away because 2 onboards versus 4 onboards. You're never going to catch up. After a few turns, they're going to be too far ahead.
No, they were unmatchable. And then by the time we got to the 3rd place match, my arm was shot. We've already gone through.
That's another thing. My arm was shot going in because of this tattoo, this damn tattoo. I mean, it's you just can't. It's definitely an impediment.
Nobody can question your dedication.
That baby was airbrushed on quickly. Like, he really rushed that job. Mm-hmm. So I bet it, probably put a little extra force on that airbrush.
There's that, and we don't know that this guy's not in cahoots, the airbrush tattoo artist. We don't know that he doesn't know these guys, and like maybe he was deliberately saying that guy's got a gun on him, and I'm gonna have to take him out so they can't compete in the. But we probably spent a good hour. Or at least it felt.
To be honest, far longer than I would have liked.
It was supposed to be just let's just do a little cornhole tournament competition, and it kept going on and on and on. It was just very embarrassing.
Yeah, the matches were going on a lot longer than I really thought they would, and at a certain point, you guys put up valiant efforts against both teams for the first half of it, but then kind of halfway through, I thought, okay, poor Hunter and Pat just need to be put out of their misery.
Yeah,
I was begging for it, man. Like, just fucking finish this thing. I don't want to be here any more than you want to lose to me. So just get this over.
We were basically like mice in front of a cat. We were being tortured. But it's all over now, and because this thing was kind of it was free, so I don't know what the point of this was, this cornhole tournament, but since we were the first ones out of there, we got first dibs on prizes, so ironically, by being the first losers, Pat and I got the best prizes.
Yeah.
I got a package of Kit Kats.
And I got some runts.
So, yeah. And
really swell.
Meanwhile, the winners, in quotation marks, are still playing, and they're going to be playing
prizes like a month of CrossFit or $100 off Christmas light displays.
Yeah, whatever. Whenever you're in your CrossFit class, I'll be sitting there eating my Kit Kat.
Yeah.
Injecting insulin into myself.
Yes.
And to paraphrase our First Lady, fuck the Christmas light display.
So,
I'm not playing for that. I want the candy.
And we got the candy. All right, so overall, what would you guys rate Black Gold Days?
Like I was saying, if you're managing your expectations, considering it's a Glenpool thing, I'd give it a 7.5 out of 10. But if you're talking about just a fair anywhere, it's probably a little bit more mediocre than that. But for Glenpool, I thought it was nice.
I think if you're into rides, and are willing to ride those rickety fucking things, if you showed up early, you could get your tickets and you could ride every single one of those rides without waiting in a line once. Which, that's probably appealing to some people. I don't really care, but that works for someone.
Yeah, if you've got like 10 little munchkins with you, and then it's a Saturday and whatever, it's free. The rides and the food isn't.
It's free to get in.
Free entry.
You have to pay for anything else, but
but if you're just looking to do something for your your little monsters, then you could definitely do worse.
Yeah, is it something that I would travel out of my way for? Probably not. But if I was by it, would I go? Again, probably not.
Absolutely not.
But I also live relatively close to the fairgrounds, and when the fair's there, I might or might not go. If that doesn't appeal to me, then something like this really,
most definitely.
Why would it?
The big draw for this was the frog jumping and the turtle racing, and that was not there. As poorly as Pat and I did in cornhole, I feel like our true sport is turtle racing.
Oh yeah. Well, and I will say, for as poorly as we did in the cornhole, if not for the cornhole, my review of this would have been much worse. Because if I didn't participate in that, then it really would have been a lot of nothing.
Right.
So what you're saying is the real payoff was the candy.
The key takeaway was the candy. All right, so gentlemen, anything else to say about Black Gold Days?
No, not in particular. I'm glad we finally got to check it out, especially for me, since I've had a little bit more visual exposure to it over the years. So I'm glad I know what it's all about now. And
we achieved Gary's childhood dream today.
All I ever wanted was to attend Black Gold Days.
Ever since his former career prior to becoming a podcaster. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, I think that concludes the newest episode of Roadside Warriors Pod. We talked about a lot today, so tell us what you think about turtle racing, frog jumping, festivals. We want to know at roadsidewarriorspod@gmail.com, and of course follow us on social media at Roadside Warriors Pod. But the single most important thing you can do is like and subscribe.